Somebody said if you don't like playing with LeBron, you wouldn't like playing with Kobe. Bro, you guys got to stop these narratives, man. It's not that I didn't like playing with Bron, you guys. And, I don't want to go into detail about it. Some of y'all comments just be so asinine. Like when I was in Cleveland and I was a young player, I had no idea Bron was going to come back.
Kyrie Irving just dropped a line that could shake one of the biggest legacies basketball has ever seen. And the wild part is he did it with one calm sentence on a random live stream. No interview, no documentary, no dramatic setup. It's just straight truth, casually dropped while he was chilling on camera. The second it hit the internet, everything went off. LeBron supporters jumped into full defense mode instantly. Comment sections turned into digital battlegrounds. And it didn't take long for people to remember who Kyrie Irving really is. He's not just some former teammate. He's the one who was there for everything behind closed doors in Cleveland, the one who actually lived it, and the one who's been carrying stories nobody else has heard. And now, he's finally ready to talk. What makes this even more explosive is the way Kyrie said it. He wasn't heated, he wasn't yelling, he wasn't even irritated. He just stared straight into the camera with this cold, calm look and dropped a message that sent shockwaves through every basketball group chat on the planet. He basically let everyone know that after his playing days are done, the real story about what went down with LeBron will come out. And he said it with the confidence of someone who's been holding things in for way too long.
The reason why I say I would have loved to play with Kobe, because I would have loved to have started my career with, I love Cleveland, don't get me wrong. I'm appreciative of all the things that they've done for me, but at the same time, I would have loved to choose the franchise I wanted to go to. You know what I'm saying? I would have loved to develop next to some of my favorite players and some of my favorite people. Because being a young player, when you're on a team that's not winning a lot of games, there's a lot of bad habits that form. And that's what ended up happening to me when I was very young. I had a lot of bad habits. I was not a winner. I was not a loser.
That wasn't a tease, that was a promise. And based on how fast people started freaking out in his comments, LeBron's fan base knows exactly why that's scary. So now we gotta dig into what Kyrie might be hinting at, because the deeper you go into his Cleveland years, the messier everything starts to look. And it all starts long before LeBron even returned. Most people completely forget that Kyrie Irving never wanted to be in Cleveland to begin with. That's not shade, that's just the truth. When he got drafted #1 in 2011, he didn't get a choice. The league picked his destination, and he landed on a team still recovering from the moment LeBron dipped to Miami. Kyrie showed up with crazy talent, handles nobody had ever witnessed before, but he was stuck carrying a roster that had no clear direction and no real help. Every night he had to drag a struggling squad toward wins that barely made a difference. And here's where things started shifting. Kyrie later admitted that those losing seasons forced him into playing a style he didn't even like. He had to play selfish just to keep the team alive. He didn't turn into a one-man offense because he wanted attention. He did it because nobody else could get buckets. But just when Kyrie was finally breaking those habits, finally growing into a legitimate leader, everything got flipped upside down. LeBron James announced he was coming back to Cleveland, and in one moment, Kyrie's entire path changed.
But when you guys make it about one player, it is kind of just weird. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not just one player that you have to promote. Like, we had like solid players on our team. When you're playing with somebody like Bron or somebody that you guys like to compare him to, it's a different animal. It's a different journey. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're automatically expected to be at the top of the charts, the top of the league. Every time you play with Bron, it's going to be a lot of media attention. It's going to be a lot of back and forth of narratives. It's going to be about a lot of spun narratives. It's going to be a lot of politics. It's going to be a lot of shit that a lot of people don't see in front of the camera. And for me, I was just a young person trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? It's not that I disliked playing with Bron at any time. It was just literally, it was my time to move on. And that's what people got to accept. They want a deeper, detailed dive in terms of what happened. It's like, it was my time to move on.
Imagine this. You're a 22-year-old superstar heading into your 4th season, right at the point where most young stars start becoming the face of their franchise. You survived the tough years, you figured out how to lead, you learned from your mistakes, and you're finally ready to run your own squad. Then out of nowhere, the biggest name in basketball shows up and instantly becomes the center of everything. The system, the playbook, the spotlight, the whole operation. And just like that, Kyrie went from future franchise leader to second option overnight, whether he wanted it or not. Your spotlight disappears, your leadership gets handed off, and the future you thought you were building suddenly gets put on pause. That's exactly what hit Kyrie Irving in 2014. And if you really listen to how Kyrie talks about that era now, you'll notice something major. He never says it was all terrible, and he never drags LeBron directly, but he keeps repeating one line that tells the real story. He keeps saying that playing with LeBron is a different animal, and he doesn't mean that in the hype-up positive kind of way. He means it in the "this changes your whole world and not how you expect" type of way. Because once you're on a LeBron-led team, everything shifts. Expectations don't just rise, the entire measuring stick changes. Suddenly you're not judged on your own grind anymore. You're judged on whether you fit into LeBron's blueprint, whether you help LeBron win, whether you can survive being the sidekick while LeBron shapes the entire narrative around the team. And that's where the story starts getting heavy, because LeBron didn't just bring talent back to Cleveland. He brought something even stronger: control. Now let's bring Pat Riley into the picture, because this detail flips everything. Before LeBron went to Miami, he was unbelievably gifted, but he was also raw. He could get emotional on the sidelines. He could look shaky under pressure, and as a leader, he wasn't always steady. But 4 years in Pat Riley's system changed all of that. Riley drilled discipline into him, structure, focus, and that ability to stay locked in when everything gets tight. Miami LeBron was the cleanest, sharpest, most professional version of himself we had ever seen. But here's what Kyrie has been hinting at for years. LeBron didn't just learn better basketball in Miami. He learned how to manage the entire machine around him. He learned media strategy. He learned how to control public perception. He learned how to shape the storylines before anyone else could get to them. Pat Riley's system wasn't just about basketball. It was about building a brand that could protect itself from every angle, no matter what was happening on the court. So when LeBron returned to Cleveland, he brought that whole system with him, and Kyrie had to live inside that machine every single day. He's talked about how everything around LeBron is controlled, filtered, polished, and spun long before the public ever hears it. He's mentioned how certain stories get changed behind the scenes, how internal politics unfold away from the cameras, and how every narrative somehow ends up circling back to protect one person. That's a lot to deal with, because it means LeBron didn't just come back as a superstar. He came back as someone who knew how to manage every angle of his career, including how his teammates fit into the storyline he wanted to tell. And when you're Kyrie Irving, watching that system run right in front of you, it stops feeling like a partnership and starts feeling like a machine that doesn't care who gets pushed aside. Then came the moment that was supposed to rewrite everything. Game 7 of the 2016 NBA Finals. Kyrie Irving, 24 years old, hits Steph Curry with that step back with 53 seconds left and drops one of the coldest clutch shots the league has ever seen. Bang! Cleveland finally gets its first championship in over 50 years. The city explodes with emotion. Kyrie just delivered the dagger that shattered decades of heartbreak. It was the type of moment that should define a career forever. The kind of shot you expect to see replayed non-stop as the purest example of ice-cold confidence under pressure. But that's not how the story played out for Kyrie Irving, and this is where his frustration becomes impossible to ignore. He hits the championship-winning shot, the dagger that seals the comeback, and later, when he turns on the TV, all he hears is "blocked by James" over and over again. LeBron's chase-down block on Andre Iguodala gets pushed everywhere, while Kyrie's game-winning three barely even gets mentioned. It was like his moment was being erased right in front of him, and somehow it got even wilder. LeBron goes on national television and says that championship made him the greatest player of all time. Not us, not we, not our team, just him. Meanwhile, Kyrie averaged 27 points in that series. He was the second best player on the floor for the entire run, and he hit the shot that sealed the win. But the whole storyline turned into LeBron's redemption arc, LeBron's journey, LeBron's legacy stamp. Kyrie got turned into a side note in his own accomplishment. And that's the kind of thing that stays with you. That's the moment you realize the system around LeBron isn't designed to lift up the team. It's built to protect and elevate one person, no matter what actually happened on the court. Then things turn brutal fast. Jump to the 2017 Finals. Kyrie is out there averaging 29 points per game, going bucket for bucket with Kevin Durant, while the Warriors control every matchup. Durant is completely outplaying LeBron, and it's obvious. But when Cleveland loses, the blame gets shifted all over the place, except onto LeBron. Kyrie gets heat, the role players get slammed, the coaching staff gets questioned, but LeBron stays protected like always. And less than a month after that finals loss, the unthinkable hits. Trade rumors start swirling around Kyrie Irving. The same guy who delivered the championship. The same guy who carried massive weight in back-to-back finals. The same guy who stepped up every time the lights were brightest. Suddenly, he's being shopped around like he's the issue. Think about how wild that is. People inside LeBron's circle start whispering about moving on from Kyrie like the 2016 run meant nothing. Fans jump in acting like front office experts, cooking up fake trades and debating who Cleveland could swap him for. It was chaos, and Kyrie finally hit his breaking point. He demanded a trade. He wanted out, and that made him the first superstar in LeBron's entire career to take control of his own path and leave by choice. Every other star who played with LeBron either joined willingly or slipped out quietly when their role shrank. Dwyane Wade in his later years, Chris Bosh before he had to step away, Kevin Love when the team shifted. None of them walked away for themselves, but Kyrie did. He looked at the whole system, realized it wasn't built for him to grow, and said, "I'm done." And LeBron's fan base has never forgiven him for that decision because his exit exposed something nobody wanted to admit. The LeBron ecosystem only works when everyone else accepts being replaceable. Kyrie wasn't going to play that part. And the moment he said no, the whole illusion cracked. That's when the character attacks started coming in heavy. And this wasn't normal basketball criticism. This felt personal, targeted, and non-stop. People questioned everything about him. His time in Boston, saying the younger players didn't connect with his leadership, his injuries, acting like he sat out on purpose just to be difficult. Even his personality got attacked, calling him weird, moody, hard to play with, anything they could throw at him. Every setback Kyrie faced started getting twisted into proof that he couldn't succeed without LeBron guiding him, and that narrative followed him everywhere he went. It didn't matter that he was still performing like an elite star. People acted like the storyline had already been written in permanent ink. Nothing he did on the court seemed to change the public's mind. Then the pandemic hit, and everything went off the rails fast. Kyrie made a personal decision not to take the COVID vaccine, and the reaction was explosive. People weren't just giving basketball opinions anymore. They were calling for him to be pushed out of the league, labeling him selfish, reckless, even dangerous. The outrage didn't feel like it was about health or safety at that point. It felt like people were punishing him for daring to think for himself, for speaking up, for refusing to follow the script everyone expected. And the wildest part, a huge chunk of the anger came from LeBron fans who acted like Kyrie's personal choice somehow damaged their favorite player's legacy. That level of obsession was seriously on another level. It didn't even look logical anymore. And through all the chaos, where was LeBron? Silent, completely silent. No statement defending his former teammate, no public support, nothing. Just total quiet while so many people tore Kyrie apart online. And that silence is exactly what Kyrie meant when he talked about the politics that go on behind the scenes. LeBron doesn't need to jump into the conversation. His system is built to run for him. His fans handle the heavy negativity, the narratives stay protected, and his image stays clean, polished, untouched. It's efficient, it's calculated, and honestly, it's incredibly cold. But this is where everything flips. Kyrie didn't break down under the pressure. He didn't fall off, he didn't fade away, and he didn't give the critics the collapse they were waiting for. Instead, he went to Dallas and rebuilt himself into a champion again. He's playing the sharpest, most efficient, most controlled basketball of his entire career. He's become a respected veteran leader, a voice younger players trust, and someone who finally found real peace. Not the media-friendly fake kind, but the type of peace where you actually know who you are and don't need approval from anyone. And the wildest proof of that growth? Even when Luka Doncic got traded to the Lakers, Kyrie didn't flinch. He stayed focused, kept producing, and showed everybody that the critics were wrong about him being impossible to build around. He turned himself into one of the most dependable players on the team. His talent was never the issue. It was the narrative people needed to protect someone else's storyline, and that brings everything back to that live stream moment. Kyrie wasn't just talking casually. He was speaking with the weight of everything he's dealt with. After all the attacks, all the twisted narratives, all the years he stayed quiet, he looked straight into the camera and made a promise. When I'm done playing, you guys will hear the real story. Trust me. And the way he said it wasn't lighthearted. It wasn't thrown in as some random comment. It sounded like someone who had carried the truth for years and was finally ready to put everything out there. This isn't going to be some vague interview where he dodges the real questions. This is going to be Kyrie finally laying out what actually went on behind closed doors. Everything that got buried, everything the narrative machine twisted, everything the public never saw is going to come to the surface. Then Kyrie dropped another line that sliced even deeper. No one could ever live in the shoes. No one could ever have anything legitimate to say about what they would have done in my position. That wasn't frustration. That was someone talking from experience, someone holding stories the rest of us never heard, someone who lived through moments that would completely change how we look at the entire Cleveland era if the truth ever came out. And the way he said it, with that edge in his voice, that I'm not scared anymore energy, you could feel it. He's done protecting anybody else's legacy at the cost of his own truth. He's ready to stop holding back. So now the real question isn't if Kyrie will talk, it's what happens to LeBron's legacy when he finally does. Because for years, the system around LeBron has been airtight. Every narrative gets shaped, every storyline gets polished, every bit of blame gets redirected away from him like clockwork. It's been clean, controlled, and incredibly effective. But Kyrie's promise cracks that whole shield, and once he starts talking, once he brings up the politics, the tension, the real conversations that happened with no cameras around, LeBron's carefully protected image might not walk out untouched. Kyrie didn't need a documentary or a PR rollout to shake the room. He did it with one calm sentence on a live stream, and the reaction told the whole truth. The way people panicked instantly, the way his critics jumped into position before he even explained anything, the way some fans tried to discredit him before he even finished the stream, that tells you everything. Everybody knows how dangerous his truth could be. The clock is ticking now. Kyrie's retirement isn't far away, and when that day comes, when he finally sits down and tells the full story without worrying about contracts, team politics, or league pressure, the entire basketball world will be listening, because the truth hits different when it comes from the person who actually lived it, and Kyrie Irving lived all of it. Every moment, every decision, every behind-the-scenes conversation, every storyline that got bent into something else. He was right there, and soon he's gonna make sure the world knows exactly what really went down. If this story opened your eyes to what's really been brewing between two of the biggest names in basketball, make sure you like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Because when Kyrie finally talks, trust me, it's gonna be bigger than anyone expects.